What's happening, guys? Silent Mike Super Training Gym here today. We're going to talk about heaving in the bench press. I got a couple questions on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all that stuff. People are talking about heaving, is it good or bad? And then also heaving in the bench press. A guy said that he was getting red lights in his meat and wanted to know how to fix it. For those that don't know what heaving is, I think it's kind of a general term, but basically it's when you're kind of losing tightness, letting the bar drop into maybe your stomach or sternum, pulling it into you a little bit, letting that shoulder internally rotate, and then you're kind of chucking back up. So in my ideas, in my head, what we're doing is we're losing tension, which for one can cause injury. Two is if you're not training the full range of motion, you're losing out on strength and muscular gains. And then three, obviously, if you're getting red lights, your lift's no good in a competition, and a lot of us are trying to compete, better our numbers, better ourselves over time. So a couple of fixes. One is tempo bench press. So taking a lighter load, anywhere from 50, 60, 60, 70 even, sometimes up in the 80%. And what you're gonna do is have a certain set of seconds that you're gonna go up and down with the tempo. So a basic one would be 3 seconds on the way down, controlling the full movement. Pause for a second on your chest and press the bar controlled 3 seconds up. This is something that we implement often in the off season anyways. It's just a great break. It's a way you can get a lot of stimulus, a lot of work in without touching heavier weights. So I've recently benched 405 pounds. I can do a tempo bench press with 225 for sets of maybe 6, 8, 10, or 12 and get a great workout without really having to fatigue myself and give myself a little bit of a break. One big thing when it comes to the injury or injury prevention is keeping that back tight. The basics of benching, we talk about it all the time, but really retracting that scapula, squeezing the shoulder blades down and back, making your traps kind of a foundation to press off of. That's gonna keep the shoulder in its socket and reduce the range of motion. So the shoulder is a very mobile joint. Obviously, I'm not that mobile, but you can see swimmers, baseball pitchers, baseball players, and their shoulders going through a great range, a lot bigger range than your hips can. So we have to use those lats, your traps, rear delts, and all that to really squeeze it into place to make it safer and more stable during the bench press. That's why we squeeze that back. As soon as you start to heave too much under heavy load or over repetitions, that shoulder blade becomes untucked, flat backing it. Now we're putting a lot of pressure onto our delt. As soon as we internally rotate, we're putting more pressure onto that delt. You'll notice as we talk, my elbows are gonna be underneath or behind the barbell, and what we want them is underneath or in front of the barbell, because that's gonna keep that shoulder in a better position. Depending on what federation you compete in, the USAPL, IPF, they make you put your head and keep it on the bench throughout the whole range of motion, through a whole press. Other federations don't. And not that saying taking your head off the bench is wrong or bad. Many big bench pressers get away with a mini heave, both injury-wise and strength-wise, and do fine. And then many great bench pressers get away with lifting their head. But if you're having an issue heaving with shoulder pain, red lights, or not getting strong enough through that full range, something that can help a lot is keeping that head onto the bench. That helps keep the sternum high, and then you press with your quads and glutes, pushing yourself back onto your traps. So traps down, heads down. I like to look straight up, and keeping my sternum high will also prevent that internal rotation and shoulder injury. As I mentioned, the tempo bench, controlling it both ways will obviously keep that shoulder in place a little bit, but the biggest issue with heaving, although some do it well, I think is when people are going super slow for the first 3/4 of the lift and then kind of just drop it and lose tension in that barbell. One, anytime you drop the barbell, the danger of and risk of injury goes up. The danger and risk of missing a lift goes up. And as I mentioned before, you're losing time under tension, you're losing control of the barbell, so then strength and muscular gains can dissipate. You need to be in control of the barbell through the whole lift, in the bench, squat, deadlift, overhead, whatever you're doing. You want to control the full range. If you're in control of the full range, we have more stimulus on the muscle, more time under tension, more control of the barbell, and to manipulate it into the bar path we need to lift the most amount of weight. Often you see when that's happening, people will get a lot of speed off their chest because they'll use their legs and a little bit of their tummy and their gut to get explosive, and then they'll have a lot of trouble locking it out. Elbows will flare, and you'll kind of end up in this position trying to squeak out a 1 rep max. That's obviously not going to be optimal if my back's tight, lats engaged, using my triceps, pecs, and shoulders all in one motion, keeping my elbow under the bar. I'm going to be able to fire through and flare just at the top, but under control. There's a difference between my elbows flaring by themselves and I end up in this position, elbows nowhere near the barbell, rather than if I control it and flare with my own screwing motion, but still keeping that shoulder in place. This is what we're looking for right here. Hopefully that helped you out. Give it a like if it helped you out, guys. Hopefully you can get white lights in your next meet. Stay safe, bench press more weight, protect your shoulders. Silent Mike, I'm out of here.